Welcome, listeners, to a very special episode of Future Secured. We've got my co-host joining us here today, Jason Morrell, and Chris Jeong, who is a co-founder of EarliBird.ai. So let's just dive straight in. Chris, tell us a little bit. What is EarliBird.ai?
Yeah, thank you, Tom. Look, EarlyBird AI is essentially a company that's been founded to help businesses integrate all these brand new AI solutions into their businesses. We all know that AI is going to be massive and has a huge impact, and we need to use it. But a lot of people don't know how to actually implement it within their business, and so that's exactly where AI comes in to help be that connector between all this brand new amazing technology and existing business practices.
Fantastic. And Jason, let's just talk about the typical challenges in the cybersecurity businesses, around tools, sales, marketing, and you and I have both, we play with AI, we use some of these tools. What are the real advantages you can have for a cybersecurity business to kind of start using these tools?
Yeah, I think in cybersecurity more specifically, a lot of people are using AI in their products. Obviously, well before AI or Gen AI has sort of been on the radar, companies were employing this. I can think back as far as 2014, 2015, really with the machine learning and early AI sort of models. And especially probably in cyber around 2017, 2018 was probably the real sort of pivotal point where it started to get a bit more of a foothold in cybersecurity. So it's really been a whirlwind of activity, especially in the last couple of years on cyber. But I've noticed that a lot of cyber businesses are implementing it with their tools, they're using to put in market, but not often in their own businesses. So that's why I was keen to get Chris on because, being an expert in that area, I think we can talk about AI and obviously the safety of AI from a cybersecurity point, but also how cyber businesses could actually utilize that to actually connect with their customers and find more ideal customers.
And just following on from that, Chris, so when someone calls Early Bird AI, the first thing you do is you kind of sit down and you take them through a call. What are some of the questions you're asking, and what are the kind of answers that you get to them?
Yeah, great question. So we actually have a framework we follow, which is the ACDC framework, which you'll see over my shoulder, which every business really falls down into either attracting new clients, converting them into customers, delivering product, and collecting on their delivery, basically, or their payments. And so we walk through that framework. We find out all the different areas within that four-part framework in their business and what their priority is right now, and then how we can actually apply a variety of different AI solutions to solve that one particular priority for them. And then we can expand beyond there as well.
So what does that kind of look like in practice, say, for, like a lot of the cybersecurity businesses we work, they sell a lot of products online. So a lot of their advertising is online. They're doing paid marketing and things like that. So what are the kind of tools that you're helping people and efficiencies that you're making with AI?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the biggest things is definitely the assistance. So helping people convert their leads into customers, especially when you're working in the online space. We find that typically when businesses are open, 9 to 5, it's when most people are actually at work or doing their own business. So they don't actually have time to inquire into new businesses. So overnight, and I'm sure many people can attest to this, most of the leads and inquiries come in overnight, right? Usually people are in bed scrolling social media or doing whatever they're doing. And AI presents the ability to have someone or something that can handle that inquiry and direct them, where they need to go and give them the information they need then and there when they want it, rather than submitting an inquiry and waiting 24, 48, 72 hours to hear back from someone. And oftentimes, especially with the internet, it all comes down to speed. The first business that gets back to that particular inquiry is oftentimes the one that's going to land the business. And so if you have the ability to do that then and there with AI, it's going to be a massive game changer for cybersecurity firms.
One of the things like with your business though, Chris, is, and I think this is somewhere where we often fall down, and I'm again going cyber. A lot of people in cybersecurity often are cyber geeks. So like, a lot of us call ourselves sort of in there and technically proficient, especially when it comes to IT, but not good at connecting with people, so to speak. So the sort of sales and marketing aspect of it tends to be often, not always, but often a weak spot, and you'll have to go external. And it's hard to find people with specific cyber knowledge or expertise in that area. So could you just give us an example, maybe? And this probably puts you on the spot a bit, but I'm sure you've done it for other clients, and you're a quick thinker. But with us within cyber context, where could this be useful, do you think?
Oh, there's plenty. So what one that's coming to mind straight away is the use of analogies. And so to
Mm,
your point exactly, you'll be talking, or cybersecurity is a very technical, business, and so is AI. But you're talking to people who are working in offices or maybe trades or services. So you can use AI to come up with really good analogies to explain things. And so I actually was looking at this earlier. So if we were to explain what a DDoS attack is, which I had to
Hmm.
really understand what that was, the analogy that the AI came back with is just imagine a group of people blocking the entrance to your store, preventing customers from entering and conducting the business. So you can
Yep.
explain what a DDoS attack is in everyday layman terms for that particular business. And then they go, I get it. I don't want that happening for me. How can you help me solve that particular problem? The other thing that I think is really big for cybersecurity firms right now is the fact that, look, you know, we know the internet's been around for a long time, social media has been around for a long time, but this presents a massive opportunity because, look, AI is what everyone's talking about, but what they're not talking about and what they're not thinking about is the security element of AI as well. And so this presents a really good
Mm.
opportunity for cybersecurity firms to go out to businesses and say, hey, are you guys using AI? Yes, I am. That's absolutely amazing. That's
Mm.
cool, guys, but have you thought of X, Y, and Z? And here's some things that you need to be thinking about and how we can actually help you as well. So I think it's actually one of the biggest opportunities for cybersecurity firms, in the last decade, because again, it's something new, novel that everyone's talking about, but also presents a really big threat that people often aren't thinking about too.
Look, diving into that, the privacy thing I think is a really big concern, but one that is just almost overlooked by the way people operate. So we know from several surveys that the majority of people in like accounting and law and tech industries are using tools like GPT and the other kind of engines every day, and they're often putting in work documents and things like that. So are they protected? Or are there things that they should be doing in a very basic sense? Well, I think they probably are. But how do you deal with that privacy in a very kind of a beginning sense?
Yeah, it's a great question. So essentially with ChatGPT, if that's what they're using, it will be added to the global pool of information. So unless you're on the enterprise plan, that's, all that information you're putting in there is ready for public training. And similar also with Gemini, from Google's perspective there too, you need to be just aware of what you can do with Google Drive. So it can actually search through all of your documents and your emails and find information for you. You want to make sure you're on the right level plan to keep that data off the public training platform as well.
Tommy and I were talking about this because obviously, end of last week or over the last sort of 72 hours or so, there's been, big updates that have happened with obviously OpenAI, but also with Google, with Gemini. What have been some of the more exciting ones or things that you're really keen to sort of really dig into since that release?
Well, the big one obviously is GPT 4.0, which stands for
Mm.
omni-channel or omni, and essentially it means that we can talk to the AI a lot more convincingly, and we can interrupt it more, and essentially we have a conversation with it back and forth. The other thing though is it can really quickly interact with images and photos that we take. So
Mm.
I guess even from a cybersecurity perspective, we could even have people take a photo of someone's website and then talk to the AI and just record this whole process and say, hey, what are some of the threats you might pick up from this particular website? And then the AI can go through and say, hey, there's this, there's this, there's this, and there's this. But they're really cool, and also the ability for it to be very fast and free to all users now. So up until this rollout, there was a free plan and a premium plan, and now everyone has the ability to have the highest level, GPT, which is 4.0, available on the free plan, whereas previously you'd have to pay for that access, which it's an absolute game changer here.
I've been playing around with GPT Omni, and I'm super impressed. I must say I've been putting lots of different content in the threads, and I'm really impressed at the way it's kind of moving to be that more conversational style. But when you're kind of moving into the talking, so it's now basically able to respond in the same level milliseconds that humans do, and so when you can kind of grasp a large part of call data or something from a call center in a cybersecurity business and go and upload that, what kind of tools are you recommending and using at EarliBird to kind of AI call centers and response and customer interaction?
Yeah, that's a great question. So voice is a relatively new thing. Now, in terms of, look, voice itself has been around for a while, but the accents, but more importantly, the actual tech infrastructure. So up until recently, we couldn't actually use AI voice through, local phone numbers, Australian phone numbers, essentially. Yeah, which is really interesting. So now, though, we have the ability to do that with a few different tools. And so what we're able to do is we can connect up to things like Twilio and other sort of phone service providers and have the AI voice running in the background there and having those conversations. The really cool thing about that is the cost. So, for example, one of the tools, it costs 9 cents per minute for the AI conversation. And so if you extrapolate that out over an hour, if you were to have a 1 hour long phone call, it's about $6 for the hour. And especially when it comes to cybersecurity technicians, I'm sure that they're going to be paid a lot more than $6 per hour. You can think through the actual cost savings that are available, but then also
Not
the
always.
AI. No, maybe not in your case there, Jason. But with
Okay,
that,
so
you can also have the AI actually transfer to a live agent as well. So imagine having, you might have a call center of say, 50 people. You might be able to reduce that down to say 5, right? And so the AI will be the
wow,
first layer that handles all the inbound inquiries. And let's just say, for example, that can't come to a solution or can't find a resolution for what the customer's calling for. It just escalates up to the next available live agent of an actual human, and it can just seamlessly transfer that call through to them as well. This is going to be an absolute game changer for a variety of different businesses.
that's massive. Because Tom and I just did a application for a grant with DISA, like the Department of Industry, Science and Resources, which was asking for, and we said when we did the application to the people we were doing the application with, in no time at all will we be able to have exactly that scenario. So the numbers we were working out were based on having actual people in there. And I was saying to the other people, weren't we, Tom, that we were dealing with there, that in no time at all, you're not going to require that amount of people or that amount of staff. And this is exactly how it'll be handled. So, yeah, I can see it on the horizon and we were saying, we can get this in market by the end of the year, which
Yeah.
it sounds like from what you're saying there, we could get it in by the end of the year. And that's for cyber, it's going to be, because it's a very technical thing. So with Cyber Aware, and this is where I'd done it previously, which was a training and awareness platform, and Chris and Tom and I have spoken. So this is for the people out there, but we'd spoken about ingesting all the support tickets we'd had at Cyber Aware from 2017 onwards when chat came out, and then in chronological order, it was putting the most asked questions, like sort of just say your top 10 most frequently asked questions. And then it could actually automate the emails. So the emails then were answering the questions on behalf. So it was watched for a couple of weeks to make sure that it was okay. But pretty much within 99 or 98 percentile, it was answering the support tickets perfectly. So that in conjunction with the actual call logs is going to be a massive game changer for a lot of businesses in cybersecurity and everywhere.
I think we're seeing some really interesting data too, that AIs that are able to be trained on massive amounts of call data are resolving issues quicker and better, and that when you do all that analysis, you're finding that the top 5 most common complaints are best dealt with by these kind of tools rather than a human. So let's take an extra step in this journey, Chris. And first of all, I want to talk about the tools, and then we can shift to some bigger picture implications. I've had a bit of fun with one of the tools out there, HeyGen. I sat down in 3 minutes, made a great avatar of myself. I used it on an online news show I speak on AI on, and we use it to spoof customers. But at the end of the day, it's got a really, really great role, aside from frightening people, in that customer relationship. At the end of the day, you can, as a CEO, and with a CRM and a tool like this, have a video message go out via email or text every time someone signs up, or you can really personalize the journey. So how much impact is that having on the experience, and what kind of tools are you seeing people use out there, and do you guys use?
Yeah, look, HeyGen's a great example. So we've found that it's only usable for a select number of businesses only because of the cost right now. So, for
Mm.
example, to create a 30-second clip, it costs about $3 to $5 from the actual AI processing power right now. That will come down as time goes on. So if you're in a business where you're selling like e-commerce products or things like that, it's probably not worth your while. But in the cybersecurity space, absolutely, you'd want to have a video from HeyGen that's been generated at various stages of the pipeline. So it could be one of like, hey, thanks for your inquiry. This is what we need to do. Hey, you've got a call coming up. This is what you need to prepare for. And then post call and all those different stages of the sales pipeline. So HeyGen is absolutely a phenomenal tool for that. We're also using things like Opus Clip and Cast Magic. So obviously video is a big part of what everyone does with marketing. And so Opus Clip and Cast Magic allow you to put a long form video in, and it will find those little short little clips because, I really believe the world doesn't have an information problem, it has a filtering problem. And so
Mm.
all the information has already been out there and been said in a variety of different videos, but the real gold nuggets are like 43 minutes into an hour long video or an hour and a half long video, or it could be 15 minutes in. And so what these tools like Opus Clip and Cast Magic do is they go through those long form videos and they find those golden nuggets and they actually put them together into the clips, all using AI. And you can have all the captions and transcriptions done. And all you do is you import the link, or you give it the link, and then within a few minutes, it's got all the different videos there for you. You can just export them and start using them. In addition to that, obviously the usual ChatGPT is a phenomenal tool. I think a lot of people don't know how to get the most out of it. And Jason, obviously you'd be aware of some of the prompts we've been sharing with those. Most people, when
Mm.
they're using ChatGPT, it's like they're stuck in first gear and behind the wheel of a powerful sports car. And if they just knew how to prompt it to get the better results, they'd get a far better output from it and far more use cases. So things like your email marketing, your social media marketing, video scripting, even coming up with unique selling propositions is also really very doable within just simply ChatGPT.
I was listening to the Unemployable podcast, and Adam was talking about something that you're building in their business around email tool, which I think is very interesting. I'm a bit of a zero inbox guy. I know a lot of people aren't, but he was talking about the idea of email replies are sitting there in draft, so they're just already drafted. It's learnt from your voice. I mean, that's just a little thing, but there's hours back in your day, really, isn't there? Just by implementing that in your business or your team, regardless of being a cybersecurity business.
Yeah, big time. Big time. And look, you can actually have AI send the emails for you on your behalf as well. However, we're just recommending that people leave it in the draft, review it just to make sure it's perfectly fine. As Jason was saying earlier, look, 99% of the times you'll be perfectly fine, but that 1%, you want to
Mm.
make sure you're checking it before it goes out.
I think with Gemini in Gmail in particular, they're actually having a new button. I think it's getting rolled out across the board, which will allow you to better integrate your Gmail and actually have Gemini interact with that. OpenAI, I think, are having that new box that you can use. I think with a Mac, it's an option spacebar, and it'll open up a box that, as you mentioned about with the images before, but also with your emails or seeing what's on screen if you're coding and doing different things as well. So what do you see, Chris, probably as the next iteration? Because a lot of this stuff's come up pretty quickly, was expected, but it's probably come online a bit quicker than expected. What are you hearing, or what do you think will be the next iteration of change we could look forward to?
Yeah, it's a really good question, actually. So right now, as you said, Gemini can go through your Gmail, Google Drive, and YouTube and find emails and help you write them as well. I think it's just going to be the exact same functionality, but a lot better. So right now, Gemini, if you click the button in there, it's like, help me summarize this email, or help me write a five bullet point list about this. It's sort of very surface level right now. Over time, as it gets smarter, it'll actually write it in your voice and in your style and in your tone, which it doesn't have the capabilities of doing just yet. So I think we're going to see much of the same, but in a lot better detail and a lot better, I guess, standards as well.
What tips could you give on basically keeping your own natural language at this moment, and then maybe just cleaning it up with chat or making it better that way?
Yeah, absolutely. So look, when you see posts that are clearly AI or clearly ChatGPT, it's just an example of people who are stuck in first gear and they don't know how to get more out of it. So one simple way of improving that is with what we call layering. So what you want to do is you want to have ChatGPT analyze a piece of your text first as the first prompt, which is layer one. Then you want to say use that same style and tone to create XYZ, and that's layer two. And so that's one simple way that you can do it. The third way you can do it as well there is once you get the output back in, you then say, okay, now rewrite it again, just to make sure you get that full human element rather than AI. But look, essentially, the biggest thing there is just the actual initial prompts you put in there. So you can, people will be surprised about how much information you can provide into a prompt. You can do a lot more than just a few different sentences. So we have prompts that are several paragraphs, and we detail, use this type of language. Do say this. Don't say that. Reply in this particular tone. And when you provide that level of detail with your prompt, you'll get a far better output. And like I said beforehand, if you do need to, you can just layer the prompts one after the other as well.
Yeah, that is a great tip. And I find that going to the destination and looking for some quality outputs, Whether if you want to write a report, for example, you go and find 3 or 4 really good quality reports, you load that in, and you ask it to make an analysis and to do those, like the tone and style, the examples, and draw that out and create a prompt, and then you can use the prompt over your content. I think, look, Jason and I think we really focus on the use case of human creativity, Gen AI to draft, and then human editing, and coming in at that last bit, and kind of that allows you, I think, to speed up and capture the best out of it. What kind of recommendations? That was a great one you just gave us. What's the number one kind of level up for something like ChatGPT you find yourself sharing?
Yeah, so just quickly on that one, there's like the 10-80-10 rule. So 10% input, 80% is the AI, then the last 10% is the human as well. But the
Nice.
biggest thing is we talk about the control method is what we call it, and it stands for, control on the keyboard is CTL. So it's context, task, and limitations. And so a lot of the times people just go into ChatGPT and say, look, write me an email about XYZ. And yeah,
Mm,
you'll get an email, but you're not giving it any context about why the email needs to exist. Where is it going? Who's going to be reading it? What role do you want the AI to play? Are you an expert researcher or a direct response marketer? So the first thing you want to do is with any of your prompts, give it that context. Like we need to write an email to do X, Y, Z. Let's just actually be a little bit more specific. I need to write an email to reach out to the head of a business. It's a cold outreach email, and it's coming from my business, EarliBird AI. Right, that's the context. The task could be write a introductory email that's a cold outreach, limited to maybe 100 words. And limitations are more of those limitations in terms of you've got word count, you've got style and tone, you've got what to mention and what not to mention as well. So we might not want to mention, say, cybersecurity at the beginning, or maybe we do want to mention cybersecurity at the beginning. And that framework and that foundation of CTL will work across a prompt of even just a few sentences, all the way up to multiple paragraphs. Because if you think about this, your context could be multiple paragraphs by itself. Your task is generally speaking going to be pretty straightforward, which is just like write the email, create a video script. But your limitations, that's when we have a lot of our other, I guess, paragraphs of limitations in there as well. So that framework, if you use that with your prompting, you'll get far better results as well.
That's gold. I'm going to
Excellent.
stick that on a
Yeah.
post-it in front of my computer.
Yeah, beautiful.
Tom and I have been really impressed with the way you sort of take your clients through the process. Can you give just some tips or some idea on the process you go through with clients, just so if people are coming in, they sort of know what to expect when dealing with you guys? Because I know you've got a great process, and I think a lot of people could learn from the process you do, not just to do business with you, but also for their own business. So, do you mind sharing what you can on what you do there? To give the listeners a bit of an idea.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now we're very focused on creating like customized solutions for each and every business. So the first thing we do is we have a business review call, which is where we go through that 4-part framework. We just sit down with the business owner and find out, okay, what are you doing for attract? What are you doing for convert? What are you doing for deliver? What are you doing for collect? And where's your biggest struggles, right? What's your biggest
Mm.
priority? Once we've got that, then we take it away. So Sam and I will actually think about, what are the solutions we can offer and how we can implement it for that particular business. And then we come back with the business on a solutions call and go through, look, we've identified these, let's just say 6 ways that we can help you with AI. This is how this will work. This is how this will work. This is how this will work. And then obviously we go through some different partnerships options as well. And the other thing too, we're very focused on making sure we're only creating solutions that really move the needle for businesses as well. Like we're not really interested
Mm.
in creating a solution just for the sake of it. We want to make sure there's real commercial, value in there. And so what we do is part of that evaluation process between the 2 calls is we identify, look, we actually think we can really help in these areas here. And if we can't help, we'll just come back to you and say, look, we actually don't think there's much we can do for you right now.
And I think that's a good thing. I know Tom and I sort of go through that same thing as well. The qualification in all businesses, I think, is key, and AI can obviously help with that. But sometimes it's just a gut feel. I know Tom and I talk about that. Is that you sometimes have it and a meeting with someone and go, this just doesn't feel right. I know AI is not quite there yet, but this is, I think, a good conversation for where that intersection of AI and actual gut feel or business now goes in. I'm sure AI will catch up pretty quickly. But have you had that? Have that had that before? Because you're a really interesting person, Chris. And I mean, we got you on here for a reason because you not just because your knowledge, but also your business now. So where does that? Where can you give us some tips on that intersection between? Yeah, because I think people can sometimes lean a little bit too much on AI and probably go against their own natural instinct in some way. where can you see that intersection yourself, or what do you find there?
Well, this is actually really fascinating because you mentioned that AI is not quite there yet. And yes,
Mm,
in many ways it isn't, but in some ways it
mm,
is.
yep.
This is really, there's a great book called The Innovator's Dilemma. And basically what they showed is that the existing technologies are always better than the new emerging technologies, right? When they're first introduced. But the
Mm,
problem is that most businesses, because the current new technology isn't quite where it needs to be, they ignore it. And then they
mm,
think, okay, look, we'll just wait until it's all there, and then we'll start using it. But they've found time and time and time again that those businesses that wait before they start using this new emerging technology, they get crushed. And that's what they call it, the
mm,
innovator's dilemma. And so um, what I'd recommend for people is essentially make sure you're getting in there and starting to play with this new technology, because if now is the time to be using it while you still have
mm,
the early mover advantage, because by the time it gets to the point where it's there and everyone's ready and able to use it, much of the opportunity is going to be gone. And so,
mm,
we see a lot of businesses. I'd say probably 9 out of 10 of them have really good use cases for right now. And when we do find that, we say, look, you need to be starting it immediately, essentially, knowing you're sort of skating to where the puck is going to be. In the Wayne
mm.
Gretzky's example there. So, look, yeah, essentially, right now, the way I look at it is like the innovator's dilemma. It's like start using the technology now, knowing it's not quite ready in some cases, but knowing that by the time it does get ready, you'll be miles ahead of your competition.
Is that really the key then? So because one of the things we are seeing out there is a lot of psychological resistance to what by businesses to starting to embed this. Is it's really a toe in the water kind of strategy? Because I imagine you're dealing with people that are ready to kind of stick or jump into the ocean, but it's just really just getting a toe in the water and trying something.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And it's kind of like we try to encourage people just to play with it, right? Just open up ChatGPT or Gemini and just start playing around with it, because once you start to see and use it, you realize it isn't that big, scary thing. And yes, there are some risks available or around it, but on the whole, once you start getting comfortable with it, your team and your people will start embracing it and adapting it as well. The other thing too is that look, it's kind of it's here and it's not going to go away. And so I think a lot of the reframing, I think there's a big opportunity for businesses to come in and reframe and retrain current staff of large companies of like, hey, this is how you think about things. Because I think the only thing that's really holding it back is, to your point, that resistance, and it's human, our own mindsets and our own, I guess, biases. And so if we
Mm.
can, the companies that can come in and retrain and reframe their staff around, how to think about AI will have a massive advantage without even really, needing to do anything with the technology itself. It's just reframing the minds of their team. And yeah, those that can do that effectively will absolutely win moving forward as well.
On the horizon the next 12 months, in some ways I know I referred to the AI wave as crashing, but I don't actually think it's started to break yet. It just keeps stacking up higher and higher. That means there will be a massive impact. So you're primarily working with businesses that are leaning into the approach, but just talk a little bit more about the risk. I mean, what is the comparison of, let's say, in our context, a cybersecurity business selling its products online, using a whole bunch of these AI tools to kind of have that 24/7 marketing, have that 24/7 customer connection, versus the people that just aren't going to touch this in the next 12 months?
Well, those that don't touch this will be wiped out, and it's as simple as that. So there's already been, I think, many hundreds of thousands of layoffs in the USA just from January to February this year. Now, companies are saying it's not because of AI, but it really is. And the reason why they're not saying it's because of AI is because they get negative headlines. So, look, what I think is really coming is the fact that people, they're not aware of what impact this is going to have on them and their business. So I think that's what's going to come around the corner as businesses start to embrace this more, because they are. Um, the people and the human fallout is what's going to be, I guess, one of the biggest things that's out there right now in terms of how do you deal with redeploying team into a new role, right? So maybe they've joined up to be a technician, say for example in the cybersecurity area, but maybe they're having to move into a human, like a customer service role, where they're talking and taking businesses through the findings that the AI has come up with, rather than doing that themselves. So I think it's a lot of it's going to come around that sort of again, like I said, the reframing. But the other thing too, just for cybersecurity firms in general, is I just want to really reiterate the opportunity. This is a new and novel thing, and as people become aware of this AI technology and the risks and the threats that it provides, this is the golden opportunity, like a golden time for cybersecurity firms, in my view, anyway, because you know everyone's going to start using AI, but they don't know what the threats are, or they don't really understand how it can impact their business. And this is a great time for you to educate businesses about those threats, knowing that over the next 6, 12, 18 months, as they start adapting and adopting AI in their business, your cybersecurity firm could be the one that's actually going through in there and helping them remain secure, because you've been educating through that whole process there too. So I view this as a massive opportunity for this space right now.
Tom and I were just at RSA in San Francisco, which is the largest cyber conference in the world. I think there's like 50,000 people from all around the world come into San Francisco for those for that week. It's nuts, right? But the AI thing, we noticed, Tom and I noticed, that it sort of caused a bit of a divide this year. We noticed the businesses that sort of overtly putting it out there saying AI are not really using it. It tended to be the businesses that have been a bit more circumspect, or not sort of being so out there about it, that are actually doing stuff. So at some talks, people were walking out as soon as AI was being mentioned, whereas everyone was obviously, talking AI, or it was a sort of hot topic. It really was sort of dividing the crowd a bit this year. So that's inside. But where else are you sort of seeing that sort of similar pattern?
Look, that pattern's happening everywhere, and that's when you know you've got something that's really impactful. Because if people didn't care about it, you wouldn't be seeing that reaction. It's kind of like you got to love or hate things, and if there's no reaction, then there's nothing really there. So look, we're seeing that play out in every single business we talk to. So in some cases, we'll have the founders who are very keen, the staff that are not so keen. Other times, it's the staff that are really keen, and the founders are not so keen. So that conversation is happening, every single day. And not just that, but even on the individual level as well. I know I was talking to a lady who was a copywriter, and she was at a coffee shop just recently, and trying to figure out with her friends, what is she going to do with her career, because essentially AI is coming in and wiping her out. And so, look, I think love it or hate it, it's here, and there's discussions need to be had. And my view with things is, if you know it's going to be here and not going to change, you might as well attack it head on and have those discussions sooner rather than later. Because if you have those discussions now and you decide what you're going to do, then you're being proactive rather than reactive, essentially. And it's interesting hearing that reaction from that event there too, by the way, that it's causing people to actually walk out. Because I think there'll be
Liz,
some people who think that AI can't replace people, but yeah, I've got an interesting take.
What other stuff could you give us that, that just in your normal realm of conversation, that you think could be of use, just to finish it off today?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think just leading on to what you were saying about the context of the event as well. I think people we need to have a bit of an ego check, essentially, especially in
Mm,
in your space, and even my space as well. Once you become the expert, you sort of that becomes part of your identity. And it's like,
mm,
do you want to be the expert, or do you want to be successful in business? Right. And so
yeah.
can you set aside your own expert, the was it the expertise fallacy, I think it is, where
Mm,
once you see what's going on, you think, oh, okay, I know what's happening, it's nothing special. But really, it doesn't matter what you think, it's what your customers think and your target
correct.
market think. And if they're the ones that are raving about this, you should be raving alongside with them, because that's going to
Mm,
generate more business for you. And so,
yep.
look, I think the biggest takeaway here is the fact that, look, AI is it's not going anywhere. It's here today. It's not even a future thing. It's here right now today. And I think as businesses start to explore the applications and what's happening, they'll start realizing how much of an impact it's going to have. Because I don't think people have actually thought that through yet. So, just your case there, Jason, what you said, that also carries on not just from their immediate day-to-day situation. Imagine you've got someone who's had a really bad day, this particular customer a month ago. They had a very
Mm,
tough conversation. And then now that same rep is going to talk to that customer a month later. There's that bias and that memory there of how
mm,
that went. And so they're going to have that little bit of a, well, they're not going to feel the same about that customer, essentially. And to your point, AI
yep.
can take that away. I think once people start thinking through, what the impact of even just voice alone is going to have on businesses, um, that's going to get massive. So look, the key takeaway here essentially is, look, AI is today, it's not tomorrow, and it's not going to go away as well. We need to just sit down as humans and people and really think. It's like, okay, are we going to be egotistical about this and saying, look, no, AI can't do what I can do, or are we going to be successful in business?
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
fantastic, Chris.
Mm,
And look, just I'm going to wrap it up, listeners, by saying we're going to do another episode. We're going to dive in with Chris and really look at a bit more around the structure, and how even Murphin Group could be helped with a few of these tools. So if you want to reach out, it's EarliBird AI with an I, EarliBird.ai, and you can reach out to Chris and Sam on LinkedIn. Thank you, Jason, and thank you, Chris, for joining us.
Thanks, Tommy.
Thanks,
We'll
Tom.
be ready for part 2 soon.